about. People can ask you questions. So anyone who's watching, as she shares her story, if you guys have any questions, feel free to put them into the comment box. I'll ask her at the very end. Or if you have any other questions about just either regarding her story or just some questions that you would like her to answer for you regarding anything she talks about, feel free to ask them all. And thank you once again for being willing to share your story with us. And we're very excited to hear them. I'm going to pass it over to you and give you some space to share.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, so my name is Sylvia Caldwell, and I would change it on my Zoom, but I'm not that tech savvy to do that on a live. So I'll put like all my info on the comment section. But so I'm Sylvia Caldwell, and I am a survivor of lifetime sexual abuse and self-trafficking, like got myself into the trafficking world. And so what happened was I started being abused when I was an infant, so really early on. Around 6 months, I had been sexually abused, physically abused, had broken bones. And then when I was 2.5 years old, I was taken to a courtroom with my pediatrician where he testified that I had been severely sexually abused. And so all of this, I really didn't remember because of the way our brains develop and stuff. It was something that was not a memory to me. But growing up, every single like symptom and side effect, all the things of sexual abuse followed my life. And so I was raised, I was abused by my bio dad, and he was not in my life after 2.5 years old. And then I had a stepfather that I knew as dad. And so growing up, everything seemed to be like normal, but nothing was normal. I have so much love for my mom and my stepdad, but I was in a home that had alcoholism and different addictions. And so there was a lot of chaos, and there was early exposure to pornography. And so I can remember just really beginning to be like sexually aroused around the age 5 and continuously throughout my life. And so this played out in all different forms. There was, you know, things that happen with peers, and then just sexual promiscuity as I continued to develop and grow. And so one thing that really kept me safe throughout my adolescent years was I was a very good soccer player. And I just, all my energy, all my everything, all my frustrations came out on the soccer field. And so I played soccer, and I really was very aware of like being like awakened to a sexuality too early, but I didn't know why. I started to have like some flashback memories, but nothing pieced together for me. And so as I played soccer, when I entered high school, you know, it was more the realm of dating and things like that. And I really stayed out of trouble because I was devoted to be like the next Mia Hamm, if you guys know who that is, and like devoted to play in the Olympics. And so my senior year, I traveled to Europe and I played in the Junior World Cup, which was awesome. And then I went on to play soccer in college. But when I was in college, I tore my knee. And when I tore my knee, I couldn't play anymore. And all of a sudden I was face to face with all the aftermath of sexual abuse and trauma and just self-inflicted traumas. And I did not have an outlet for it anymore. And so what really happened was I took on an identity of, instead of being captain of the soccer team, I started being captain of the partying team. And as I did that, I, you know, lost my virginity, and sex became really, it was a way that I thought I was to be loved. So, you know, if I was sexually active, if I was partying, all these different things were what was giving me my value and my identity and my purpose. And I was really lost. It was a very sad time. I was very down, very depressed. And that went on for years and nobody knew it. It was one of the things that I kept to myself. All the tears, everything came out in my car, came out in rooms alone when I was at parties and doing my thing on the streets. I just was like party animal, life of the party. Like nobody would have known anything was wrong. And it all came to this like combusting moment when I was about 25 years old. I sat on my bed and I was about to take my life. I just couldn't handle like the depression, the PTSD. I had a lot of shame because I didn't know at the time that my bio dad abused me. And I just had shame from being abandoned, and it would stay blocked for a long time. And then it was like the floodgates would open. And this particular time, I just couldn't handle it. And I had a lot of people in my life who had pushed Jesus on me, but it was in the most hypocritical ways. So I really wanted like nothing to do with Jesus. And I sat on my bed and I was about to kill myself. And I yelled out to God and I said, God, if you're effing real, so I cussed at him, right? I'm like, if you're effing real, I want to know who my bio dad is, or like make this torture and torment go away. And so literally right after that, I found my bio dad's obituary. It was 5 years old. And it said, if anybody knows the whereabouts of his daughter, to call this phone number. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like I'm going to have $1 million waiting for me, or some great inheritance, right? And I call and I found out I had 2 older brothers and they are awesome people. And so we have the same dad, and our dad left all of our lives around the same era of time, but they live in the Midwest and I was on the West Coast. And so as I found this information, I met all of my bio dad's family members and then all of my mom's family. All of a sudden, everybody had something to say. Like, you know, one side of the family was like, he was amazing, da 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 da. And then my mom's side of the family had now, like the rug had been lifted. So people would say very vague, like brief comments. And so one of the comments was about being sexually abused, and it wasn't his fault that he was abused too. And so that hit me obviously like a ton of bricks. And I was like, wait a second, I had been abused. But so to flash back, when I was about 18, I really got into psychology. And I kind of started piecing some stuff together. Like all of these things I experience in life aren't normal. Like these are things that follow people who have been abused, but I didn't know of any abuse, but I had everything, right? And so I went down to the courthouse and I got the paperwork from when I was 2.5 years old. And I read all of the paperwork and found out about all of the abuse that happened to me. And it was hard. It was a lot to deal with. I knew I needed to go to counseling, and it took me a while. Like I went to different counselors, but I didn't find the right fit. And there was one person who spoke to me about Christian counseling. So I tried that out and it was a great fit for me. And backing up a little bit, going back to that moment on my bed, I obviously did not take my life, praise God. And what was really miraculous about it was all that religion that was pushed on me that made me say, this is hypocritical and I want nothing to do with this. That was all flushed down the toilet because I literally cussed at God, and like his love and his goodness was so great. And I asked him to know my bio dad, but what happened was I was introduced to my Heavenly Father. And from there on, we started this journey of healing. And it came with a battle, like a big battle. I mean, as many of you, I'm sure that are watching can relate to or have known and felt. But I started having panic attacks. I got very depressed, and I went on this just slow journey. And what really happened was I started learning later on about our souls and like the trauma that our souls remember, right? And that we can't just, I can't just push it away with soccer. I can't push it away with when I used to drink. I can't, the world will offer so many ways to push it away, right? And so it was a slow journey at first. I was really getting to learn about God and who God was and trust him with this. But one of the most miraculous things that happened in my healing, and I have created a course in the last 2 years called Arise, and it takes you through 9 phases, and it's so amazing. It's literally everything I've learned on this journey. And phase 4 in particular, like if I could have emptied my bank account to just go through phase 4, I would have, knowing the results now. But so what happened was, after my second son was born, so I have 4 kids, and I am married to my husband, and all my kids are super awesome. I just had a baby a few months ago, and that's a whole nother story, but I just love to share. If you're watching, I know that one thing that can happen is women who have been abused, that can be triggered in birth. And I have so much passion, and please message me, like, if you're pregnant and that's something you struggle with, because the abuse that happened doesn't get to steal the miracle of life that is being birthed through you, you know, and just your birth can be like so tremendously amazing. And so, but one of the things that happened was, after my second son was born, he resembled my bio dad a lot. And so things were getting stirred up in me that I had never addressed. And when it was just one night, I all of a sudden had PTSD. And I had never experienced that before. Even up to that point, after reading all the documents of what had happened to me, I had created this story in my head that it wasn't really him and it was somebody else. You know, I did that self-protection thing, and also protection of my family members. Like, they don't want to believe it was him, and I'm going to just create this character that it wasn't him, right? And I started having the most extreme PTSD that you can imagine. It lasted for like 72 hours straight of just a video playing in my head of the abuse when I was a little girl. And every single thing that was really, really disturbing about it just circled. And it got to the point where I was thinking, if this does not stop, I might like have to take my life, because it was so torturing. And this is a very cool detail, but when I had that thought in that moment, I was outside a grocery store, and somebody came to the grocery store and she said, "Sylvia, I was sent here to pray for you." Like, she knew I was going to be there. And so she prayed for me, and that prayer was just so amazing. And one of the lines that was said to me is, I had in my head, like, why would God have me go through this? Why did he give this to me? And she very, my vision of the character of God was different then. And what she said to me was, he didn't give this to you. He's holding your hand to grieve with you out of this. And that was a shift for me in my mindset back then. And so basically, I went to this Christian counselor I had been seeing, and there's a thing called freedom prayer. And for those of you that don't know what freedom prayer is like when you go through the memory and you stir up every part of the memory. You stir up the way you're feeling, the fear, the sights of it, the touches of it, smells, noises, all the things that are tremendously triggering, right? You stir it all up, and you pray through it. And so what happened was, I went into this counselor's office, and I had seen her for a bunch of years, and I was shaking. I felt sick. It was like the hardest thing I ever had to do, because I didn't want to speak out of my mouth what happened. And so when I went in and I spoke it out, and she asked me to call on the name of Jesus. And so I called on the name of Jesus. And this might sound crazy to a lot of you watching, but I just share the truth, because it has miraculously changed my life. But what happened was, Jesus Christ walked into the room, and he looked me in the eyes, and there was like a ball of like huge bright colors around him. And then it went through this movie of me as a little girl, and him removing me from the situation and taking me through a new door and protecting me. And I'm telling you, like, your life will never be the same after Jesus looks you in the eyes, right? And so from that time on, all PTSD, all depression, all anxiety, like, it just ceased. It ceased, like the lightness that was brought into the darkness. The dark couldn't damper it. And so it's been really an amazing journey. I have times where I still will have triggers, right? I'll have a fear pop up or something. And it's just really, it's spectacular, because when I close my eyes and I think back to that moment of Jesus walking in the room, there's not one time that it has failed. Like it always, the light has always been brighter than the darkness. And so with that, I still have continued, learning about myself, learning about different things. So one of the things that was big for me when I felt fear or anxiety or feeling out of control was hypochondria. Like I would go immediately to my body not being safe. And so, I continue to pursue healing. I have learned things about triggers, different ways to process that, ways to retrain pathways in my brain that focused on those things for so long, and just different ways to just pursue life fully. And so it's been really amazing. I would say that I have had the most peace I've ever had in the last 4 years of my life. I do feel like I'm totally free to be me, that I've learned healthiness in relationships now, and healthiness in just boundaries and my own health, that I can show up as my true authentic self, which helps, when you live in the aftermath of abuse with depression or anxiety or codependency or addiction, you sometimes show up not as yourself, and then you feel really overwhelmed, and it just kind of does this repetitive cycle. And the other thing that I have learned is really what it means to grieve versus mourn. And it's so fascinating to me, but to grieve is to feel a feeling, right? And to mourn is to express the feeling. And so when I was studying to create the Arise course, one of the things I learned is that our brains can be up to 40%. The matter of our brain can be grief. Like we can create that in our brains, right? And it's from this cycle of just feeling the grief, thinking about the grief, and then it highlights this dopamine in your brain, and it goes in this cycle, right? And so what I really share a lot in all aspects of life, but especially when it comes to sexual abuse and trauma, is to really mourn, and that it's okay to be mad. Like it's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel disgusted. It's okay to feel all the things that you need to feel, but to have to express them out in the way you need to. Maybe you need to get to a punching bag. Like I can be like a physical expressor, right? Like I get too amped up. Maybe you need a punching bag. Maybe you need to paint. Maybe you need to chill in the bath, but express it out and to talk to God, because really, truly, his words stand still. Like, blessed are those who mourn, they will be comforted. And so it's just like one of the biggest tools. And it is one of the hardest tools, because it puts us face to face with dealing with the emotions, right? But he is so cool. He does not care if you're mad. Like, he does not care if you're angry. Even if you're angry at him, like, where were you? Like, what happened? Like, why did you let this happen? Like, he'll talk you through everything. But I can tell you that he is super good, and that his intention here on earth was never for anything like that to happen to any of us. And so that's my story. We just launched our nonprofit. It's called Live Caldwell. And we are in it to win it. Like, we exist to bring systemic change to sexual abuse, the cycle of sexual abuse and trafficking, because we really do believe, like, it is amazing. It's so amazing for people to be rescued away from their abusers, and people to, be rescued from off the streets and stuff. But if we don't get to the spirit, the soul, and the body, it doesn't change, and it repeats to the next generation. And so we are just in this, we have a goal to see 20 million free. And that's just the beginning, because, 20 million, I think, is a statistic for people trafficked, I don't know, per year or something like that. And I think it's 20 million per year, but 1 in 3 are abused in their homes. So there's just millions of people on this planet who have been sexually abused or trafficked, which is sexual abuse too, just been through so much sexual trauma, and it's just time to like chop it and bring it to an end. And so, yeah, we launched our nonprofit Live Caldwell, and then we have a site called livefreethreads.org where you can read people's testimonies who have gone through the Arise course, and you can, we design different threads, and with each purchase of a thread, a course is gifted to someone. And so, yeah, that's my story. We're really excited, and we're so stoked to have like met you guys too.
Well, thank you so much for sharing. We do have a few questions for you. So someone asked, do you mind sharing a little bit more about what you meant by when you said self-trafficking?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so when I ended up out of soccer and started partying, I started just getting into different relationships and getting into the nightclub scene. I stayed at the clubs a lot, and I didn't even realize like what I was doing was trafficking, but because I had a big fear of, I don't even know that I could recognize it as a fear back then, but I can recognize it as a fear now, but just not being provided for, and like not having a safe place. And so I really just used and abused my body and other people. But so there's two different forms really. I would go to clubs with the intention of like, I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna party and have fun, and I would sell my body to whoever wanted to hook up to buy me drinks. Or it went to different levels where I stayed in relationships, really just for a place to live or to have like clothes provided for me, which it wasn't like I didn't have clothes. I had an addiction to shopping, to drinking, to partying, to all different things, to a status really. And so I would just use my body to give people sex to get those things.
Thank you for sharing, Matt. I know
welcome.
That's definitely not something that people normally talk about. So thank you generally for sharing that. And I think we're seeing a lot more types of self-trafficking right now, especially in 2020.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to talk about that. It doesn't always have to be a pimp or someone like an abuse. It doesn't always have to be an abusive trafficking situation for it still to be trafficking. So we had a congrats on your nonprofit as well.
Thank you.
No problem. Does anyone else have any other questions? It doesn't look like it. We only had a few questions. I'm gonna wait and give them a few seconds to see if anyone else has any questions. But I'm trying to think of a question for you. What would be one thing that you would say to someone who is considering a version of self-trafficking? What would you say to her or him?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say this is the easy answer would be to not do it. But I would just say like, you are more worthy than that. Your body is not up for sale. And anybody who is willing to cross that line with you is not, it's a false version of love. It's a mirage. And that true love protects you and who you are, your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul. And that I would say, look at it as an investment. Now that I can look back, me and my husband, we both have pasts, and what the motive behind that for me was a status really, and like true love, which I never found, right? And I self-protected myself by always not committing, and then I would just repeat the cycle and find somebody new. But I would say, look at it as an investment right now, and know, number one, you can ask God to fulfill those needs for you, and He will. And two, you want to sow seeds into your future. Somebody said to me, what you're experiencing a year from now is what you sowed today. So I would just say to really plant that in your heart. And at the end of the day, no matter what level of the trauma we're in, all of us deep down inside want to be to the other side of the trauma. We want out. We're trying to escape, and that's a form of escapism. And so I would just really say, give yourself grace. I can remember being in clubs after counseling, and my counselor had drew a picture on the board to me about what the stages of alcoholism looked like. And because I thought an alcoholic would be like, you know, you need to drink beer every day or have a drink every day. But she really drew the stages, and my form of it was like going to the club and like, whoa, I'm going all in, right? And that was also an addiction, and that was like a gateway into other things. And I can remember being in those moments and having my conscience awakened, but still making the wrong choice. And so I would also say, just give yourself grace and know that shame really comes from the pit of hell. And that even just having that thought of like, this isn't who I want to be anymore, is an amazing seed to have planted, because it will continue to grow as you water it. And I would also recommend setting healthy boundaries for yourself, knowing, is the club not a place that I can be in this season of my life? You know, is the like what shows you're watching, a lot of input that comes in, different things on social media can fuel those and give us this picture of the status, or like it's okay, it's culture. And so I would really just be aware of all those things too. But number one, just give yourself grace. And when you feel shame coming, just literally speak the opposite and know that you're worthy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah. It doesn't look like we have any more comments or questions. So thank you so much for sharing your story and just coming into the space with us and helping us to spread awareness and education, and hearing from women who have been through it and are on the other side of it. Again, it's amazing to see, and I'm so happy to hear about just your freedom that you found and how you found it and all of it. Just, it's amazing to hear, and thank you so much for sharing it with us.
Oh, you're welcome. And I do want to just let all your community know, if anybody does need a course, the Rise course, we would love to just gift it to them for free. So if they want to contact you, or I'll put my information in the thread as well. But we just are so passionate about everybody getting to the other side. So anybody who needs it, I talk about everything in there. Phase 1 is just really your original design and like finding your why. And then phase 2 is all about the character of God and the questions you might have, like, where was he during abuse? Is he bad? Is this punishment? Phase 3 is spiritual warfare, which was huge for me too. I wish I would have known it when I first started walking my journey of healing, right? And then phase 4 is amazing. It's all about just the soul and all the things that we can remember. And it's really where we dive into like PTSD, depression, anxiety, all that. Phase 5 is all about the mind. Phase 6 is all about the body. Phase 7 is a phase that nobody really talks about, and it was a little awkward to film, but I'm very passionate about like talking about it. But it's about sexual intimacy, what is normal, what is not, how to restore it, how to rebuild it in your marriage, and different things like that. And then phase 8 is all about communication and boundaries. And phase 9 is just equipping you to share your story, because then one of the number one things that keeps survivors stuck is they never break out of the shame to share their story. And so it gives you a safe community and a safe place like this to share in. And so we would love to just gift that to anybody who might need it.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And I will definitely put that in there, so anyone, I'm sure someone will see it and would love to go through it. So yeah, so would you like to share anything else? Any last words or words of advice or anything?
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anything specific to share, but I do just want to say, like, I believe in you guys. I believe in anybody who needs healing. And I also believe, I believe there's a great awakening that's happening right now of people coming together and realizing whether you've been trafficked or not trafficked, abused or not abused. Like, I really believe like every race, every religion, every gender, every generation, like we can all come together to make a change to this and to stop it. And so for those who are struggling and feeling like, oh, well, that's your story, I'll never be to that point. Like, I just say, I believe in you. And I'm like, personally, like, what's up? I'll be a friend. Like, let's walk through this together. And for those who think like, is that real? Like, is there really self-trafficking? Is this really like, you know, is abuse really that big of a deal? You know, I just say educate, keep educating, like you're here because you're curious. And then for those of you that want to make a change, just do anything you can. Like this organization, right? We're all battling right now, algorithms, all the things, right? And so hit like, shoot a quick comment, share people's content, spread the word, because really we're in this culture of like scroll, scroll, scroll. And you think in your head, like, yeah, that's a great cause, but we need to like, to make a movement, we need to take a motion. And so just take your time and like their content, you know, share content, comment, and just help. It's like we're building a snowman, and every little bit of the snowball is just making this big momentum. And so that would be my advice. Like, if you need healing, jump in. If you know, don't feel like it's that big of a deal, educate yourself. And if you are all in it to win it, just share and do little things that help.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for sharing all of that and for sharing your story with us. We have absolutely loved having you on here. And I will put your information, you can put your information into the comment section. Just again, thank you. Thank you. I'm sure people will watch the replay and there'll be more comments and stuff probably, or just people thanking you. So, but yes, thank you so much. And have a great rest of your night too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's been an honor.
No problem. Thank you. And I'm sure we'll be continuing talking and keeping you with what we're doing and supporting you and what you're doing as well. It sounds amazing, the master course that you've started. So I would love to be able to push people through that as well. So thank you for sharing that too. You're welcome. Thank you again. Have a good rest of your night, Sylvia.
Okay, good night.
Bye.